we've talked a little bit about the whole like FaZe clan thing that's imploding. I'm sorry that I find this so funny. Um, I tweeted, I like retweeted the FaZe thing is imploding. They're dropping to 50 cents a share and they're getting delisted. Lol, cringe. Like, it was funny to me. It's funny to me still because it's a bunch of like people that were really, really freaking wealthy that now are complaining about their stock of their company that isn't really a company, doesn't do anything. They're complaining that that's dropping, and some people countered and like commented and were like, I don't think it's cool for you to like badmouth a gaming company. We should be in this together. And I'm like, dude, like I will talk up the good side of the gaming industry, but the bad side, the guys that are just insufferable, the guys that are actively harming the industry, yeah, we'll call those guys out and we'll tease them. And when they fail and they start to do badly, then yeah, we'll revel in that because why not? And in the case of FaZe, this is like, it never really made sense. And honestly, I think that the whole FaZe thing being listed on the stock exchange was just an example of a get rich quick scheme. And to me, I couldn't prove this in a court, probably. It, to me, seemed to be eerily similar to a pump and dump scheme where they list the business on the open market. They have the core members hold most of the shares of stock. They get their fans who are very, very much fans and are sycophantic and crazy. Thank you, my babe. They get those people to get hyped up on it and inflate the price, and it explodes and goes crazy. And then they dump all their stock when the price starts to rise. They get rich, and then, oh no, the company's delisted from the stock exchange. They don't really care. Like, they got their bag and they got out. They don't care because it was never supposed to be like, a long-term thing. I think it was just a way to get quick cash. So to me, I'm very, very skeptical of this whole thing. It seems super, super sketchy, and it makes me generally quite uncomfortable. And Penguin tackled it with a little bit of detail. Perhaps the funniest thing is that Snoop Dogg is getting out. Even this whole thing is even too much for Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg is known for being like signing on for some pretty weird projects. It's just like you can't make it up.
Another disaster in the esports industry. Today, we have to mourn the loss of an esports icon, someone whose passion for the industry as well as their non-stop involvement in the space is something that's very powerful and special, something I think we can all learn from. I'm talking, of course, about Snoop Dogg.
Snoop Dogg,
as you know, is one of the founding fathers of FaZe. He's been with the company for about a year now, and honestly, it's probably what he's most known for now. Aside from all of the other success he's had in his career, FaZe is probably what Snoop Dogg is most known for, and unfortunately, we're gonna have to hold a funeral service for him now. Not because he's like actually dead, but because he's dead to esports. He has resigned from FaZe. According to their...
I don't think he did anything for FaZe like the whole time he was signed on. Basically signed on, apparently he got like a big chunk of stock and then like was a member of the board and then bailed. And people freaked out about it because they're like, dude, you signed Snoop Dogg to FaZe Clan and like he doesn't play, he's not a competitive player, and he had a bigger stake in the company than like even the most senior members. It was wild. It's like, what on earth is happening? Why? It's crazy. It's insane. But it's because they brought him in for quick name recognition to get in some headlines to try to pump the stock up so that they could dump it real quick before anybody realized. Like, it's just crazy. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if in the coming months and years, there's some people that get in some serious trouble for pumping and dumping on this. It's crazy.
TC filing, it wasn't due to any disagreements between Snoop Dogg and FaZe Clan, and it's only been a little over a year since he joined in the first place. I'm of course kidding. I imagine most of you didn't even know Snoop Dogg was part of FaZe Clan because they made this big hoopla one time when he signed up, but he couldn't even be bothered to show up to the announcement in person, so instead all they've ever done together is have a picture of Snoop Dogg holding the FaZe Clan chain. That's really about it. That's about where his involvement in FaZe stops. He took one picture with their chain, and that's it. He said, all right, my job's done here. Thanks for the shares and the payday, I guess. Glad to be here. And he just kind of rode that for over a year. Just a severe case of goofball brain here with the decision to bring Snoop Dogg on to FaZe as part of their board of directors as well. This isn't a decision that is exclusive to just FaZe. This was actually a trend in the esports space where a lot of mainstream celebrities that have never touched the video game in their life all started being brought on board as kind of the face of organizations. So Snoop Dogg, that was supposed to be his role. And the idea is these mainstream celebrities open their brand up to new viewers, new potential customers, which will hopefully allow them to make more money because those new customers now might buy merch and help them actually generate a profit in an industry where profit is a forbidden, illegal word to use because it just doesn't fucking exist. In esports, profit is like finding a leprechaun's pot of gold. It's impossible. There's no such thing. There's very few orgs that turn any level of profit. It's very rare. So they all got desperate and thought this might be the play. Grab celebrities like Snoop Dogg, and hopefully we'll get some new customers that'll help us get in the green. And it clearly has not worked.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with esports is everybody kind of pitched it as a, like, it was really, really weird. It was basically like people thought that they could make the NFL of gaming, that they could have an organization like the NFL where they have a broader structure, and then you could have teams like FaZe where that team can come and play in this broader structure, or even if there's no broader structure, just you bring the team to individual tournaments that are all disconnected, and then you could have, you know, fans of that team that buy merch, that would buy tickets to those events, that would watch those streamers, that would support them that way. And they're like, well, the NFL can do it, so surely we can do it. Surely we can turn a profit that way. And it's just frankly not that, it's not that simple. It's actually a little complicated. And it's, you know, when your whole business model is, well, we have a bunch of like semi-famous people on the internet, and then we're going to sell merch, and then like we'll win some tournaments, some gaming tournaments, and take the prizes. It's like, okay. But like, how is that a business? How is that a bit? Because it's not even like an apparel company where you just have good clothes and good designs where people want to buy it because it's good. Like, you just, in this case, you have just merch for the sake of merch. Like, it's not the same thing at all. It just doesn't work
At all. I think the idea, like the logic behind it, makes sense, but you'd need a celebrity who actually knows what the fuck is going on in the industry, or at the very least plays games. Snoop Dogg streams occasionally, but for over a month he couldn't even be bothered to turn audio on. He streamed completely muted, and he never noticed. He'd go over a month, with just a completely fucking muted stream, like you were sitting in a fucking sensory deprivation tank when you had a Snoop Dogg stream on. I guess maybe it was good for, like, sleep aid. That, you know, might be a real argument you can make, but he is clearly not someone who ever understood esports to begin with. This was just supposed to be like a desperate Hail Mary to hopefully get new audience to, you know, buy into the FaZe brand. And we can really see how well that worked for FaZe in particular here. The proof is in the pudding. This is a recipe for home runs. They can't stop winning here. Look at this fucking stock price, absolutely crushing it. So the point is, it's not something that FaZe alone is struggling with. All of esports is kind of imploding right now. The bubble has finally burst. In addition to Snoop Dogg making his grand departure from the space, CLG yesterday announced that they're pretty much folding as well. I believe they're being purchased by a different entity, but overall their operations are ceasing. They're halting all of their esports spending. I think the only thing they're keeping intact is their league-related arm. All the rest are being flushed down the shitter, so there's been mass layoffs. A ton of people banished to the Shadow Realm overnight here from the CLG closing of their doors, and it's a huge surprise to everybody, especially because even just like a couple weeks ago they were making new signings. Like, they just signed 2 new Smash Brothers Melee players, and now not even a full month later they're like, actually, company's gone, we're completely changing everything. So a spokesperson has apparently said that they're trying to, you know, better position their company for long-term success, and, you know, looking at alternative business strategy. I guess that strategy is give up and roll over.
It's not a business. Like, that's what drives me crazy, is this whole thing is like, if you want a team, a clan, I get that, but I don't know why somebody who's like a successful streamer would join FaZe. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. You know, people are like, well, it's because you join a group of people that are also successful, and then you'll be successful, and you'll have that brand. Okay. Like, I guess, but I just don't. I don't see it. Can somebody in chat explain to me what the like appeal is? Like, say you're a guy who's just been grinding Call of Duty, and you're really good at Warzone. You're really, really good, and you start to get a following on Twitch and TikTok, and you maybe have a few thousand concurrent viewers at a time. And then FaZe approaches you, and it's like, sign with us. Is there any reason to do that? Like, you're already making good money. You're already growing. You already have an audience. Why would you need to sign with them? Like, do you have to be a member of an org to go into these tournaments? I could see that. Like, if Nick Merckx wants to play in a tournament, he has to be a member of an org, I guess. Access bigger audience and events. And maybe I'm just so in a bubble that I just don't see it. But do people really go from like, are they just browsing FaZe and then they see what the latest members of FaZe are and then they add them to their follow list and start watching their stream? Do people really do that? Nowadays, it doesn't matter. I guess not. I don't know. They do? Okay. I guess I'm the weird one. I don't think in that way, so it's weird for me to hear that people are so tribalistic like that. It just breaks my brain, but
because that's what it really feels like, hoping that someone will purchase the, remnants, the skeleton crew of CLG. And it's not like I blame them. Like I said, the industry is just not generating money at all. Esports does not make money. And that is a lesson that everyone is now learning in that space. And it's something that myself, Ludwig, Matt, Danny, all of us knew beforehand when we made Moist Esports. We knew that this industry was held up with fucking imagination, like SpongeBob and Patrick in their box. All it was imaginary valuation on all their shit and hopium that eventually they'll be able to somehow make money. And that's not the reality of the situation. So we knew going into it this was going to be losing money out the wazoo, maybe forever, and we're fine with it because it's a space we are genuinely passionate about. But all these other companies don't have the same luxury that we have. They do need to make money in order to continue to exist, and they really can't right now. So all of their business strategy over the last 5 or 6 years is eating them alive, which is why so many of them are experiencing these massive layoffs or just completely vanishing. Like another one, E United recently had to fold as well. It's just been a really tumultuous period in the esports scene. I don't think esports as a whole are going to die, like competitive gaming isn't going anywhere, but these orgs are they're having to swallow a very tough pill and learn that they've been making terrible decisions for years now and it's not working out. So CLG is the most recent victim here, but again, them and FaZe, they're still not alone. Even earlier this week, TSM, one of the biggest names in gaming, had to announce that they are going to have to be making changes as well. They're pulling out of several titles as well as just kind of pumping the brakes pretty hard on a lot of their other ventures that they were pursuing. It was even reported that they were considering selling their slot in the LCS, which is almost blasphemous because TSM's been in League of Legends like since the fucking start. I mean, that is crazy. And of course, most of you probably remember that they had a huge deal with FTX, a $200 million deal that was also included with naming rights, so they were TSM FTX. But we all know how FTX, turned out, that fucking fairy tale ending. Absolute disaster, which of course was a huge hit to TSM, but they did make a statement saying that they were strong, profitable, and stable following the cancellation with FTX. But now I got to question if that's true, or if that was just a load of hooey, because Jesus Christ, this is a huge deal. Selling an LCS slot, especially for an org like TSM, is a crazy thing to even think is right around the corner potentially. Now I understand LCS itself is kind of dying, it's treading water.
I don't know. I guess it's so interesting to me, like all this stuff, because I'm just not familiar with a lot of it. I start watching new streamers 90% through word of mouth. It seems like word of mouth, I have encountered a good number of people through like TikToks. TikTok seems to be a great way to grow. And I feel like by the time I sit down to watch somebody stream, I've probably seen them like 5, 6, 7 times. Or at least I've run across them, right? I've seen them in YouTube shorts, in TikToks, in YouTube videos, or something else. So, but that's also just because like, I've thought about this a lot recently. People complain about Twitch discoverability. And like, we'll just fix it, Twitch. And I honestly think like the easiest way for them to handle it is to basically make like a TikTok variant with clips specifically. Just have an algorithm where you can swipe through on the app, different Twitch stream clips and then see that. But even that, like, it's not really what Twitch is about. Like, Twitch is about sitting down and watching the stream live and hanging out with this person live for an extended period of time, which is why it's like the barrier to entry to join a stream is a lot higher than a lot of other stuff. It's a lot more difficult to pull that off. Because for you to decide to come in here and hang out with me on stream takes a lot more convincing than watch this TikTok, which requires no barrier to entry, right? You basically just swipe and then you accidentally start watching it effectively. Or YouTube, you see a good title, a good thumbnail, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And you click on it. Very low barrier to entry. Twitch, it's like, I'm going to hop into the middle of a conversation. I have no idea what's going on, and I've never heard this person talk before. That's really hard to get somebody to do. It doesn't really make sense for you to just pop in randomly to try that. So I think it's less of a big issue with Twitch. It's more of just a reality of what streaming is, at least in my opinion, as far as I can tell. Let's see. New Kwoming Chi tweet about PSVR 2 cutting production by 20% plus other VR headsets not selling well. I think the big thing is just that there's no games to justify. Like, there's not a lot of big major titles coming out to justify spending $500, $600, $700 on a gaming headset. It just doesn't make sense. And so while as my whole policy, my whole stance on the PSVR 2 thing has been from the start, I'm sure the hardware is amazing. I've not personally tried it, but everybody who tries it says the tech is amazing. I just don't know how you could justify spending $500 on something you'll use maybe for a week, because you'll play through Call of the Wild or Call of the Mountain, then you'll play through some of these other VR games. Maybe you're really into Beat Saber and you'll put 5,000 hours into Beat Saber, but I'm not even sure if Beat Saber's on the PSVR 2. Hopefully it is, because that's a no duh. But like all of these things, I just don't know how you can justify the huge expense for the little, like, oh, this tech's really good, I'm going to use it once or twice a week. Like even the Switch now, like if they released a Switch Pro, I honestly don't know if I'd buy it. And I love buying new gear and hardware like that because, oh, it's not, Jesus Christ. That's ridiculous. But like, even if they released a Switch Pro with the new Zelda, if it came out after the new Zelda comes out, I don't think I'd get it because there's just no games that I actively play on the Switch. So I'd be buying cool hardware that I would never use. It just doesn't make sense. It's just a waste. It's like that handheld Sony Vita thing that we were talking about earlier. It's like that. I'm sure it's going to be cool. It's probably going to be built well, but I don't know if I would spend $300 on something that isn't that useful. Like, I just don't see it. Yeah, I haven't used my Switch. I used my Switch a few days ago because Nikki's sister came to visit and we played like Mario Party. But that was the first time I had to actually wipe the dust off with my finger off of the screen because it had been sitting in a cabinet for so long.
Let's just call it like it is. We don't need to be huffing any copium here. The LCS itself has not been doing great. League overall has been fine. Like other regions have been doing great in some cases, but the LCS in particular, not so much. Viewership is not looking amazing. People don't really get excited about it. So that is also something to consider with the TSM situation here. Like maybe they just feel like it's in their best interest to sell it, because they want to ensure that they can remain profitable and stable. So they could be doing this as a preventative cautionary measure to make sure they don't bite off more than they can chew down the line should the esports industry continue to get worse. So maybe they aren't as bad as it initially appears here with them like halting a lot of things and pulling out of some titles. But either way, it's still at least alarming because the industry itself, all of esports, is just not healthy at all. It is held together by fucking toothpicks and glue. It's like making those old like spaghetti fortresses like back in science class where you're supposed to like make a little spaghetti building. Like that is pretty much the entire esports space, and right now that spaghetti building is really wobbling. It's sad to see, but it was also the most predictable shit ever. I don't know how people didn't see this coming sooner. Like even on the outside, I know a lot of viewers are like, man, how the fuck are these esports orgs even profitable? And the answer was always, they're not. But for some reason, the orgs themselves never had this eureka moment, this, flip of the light switch to like, holy shit, this is going to be bad pretty soon. We're not able to actually recoup our costs. And now they're panicking, they're folding, and it's chaos, pandemonium. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because obviously I'm in the industry with Moist Esports, of course, so I see a lot of it and I have a lot of information on like the back end of what's going on with other orgs, and it's always just so surprising to hear that this is something they didn't foresee and didn't plan for accordingly. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over this whole topic, and once again, it is sad to see Snoop Dogg leave. I know most of the gamers out there looked up to him as a hero in the esports scene, as kind of their inspiration behind the drive to compete in esports, and now he's left FaZe, so that's rough. But anyway, that's really about it. So yeah.
Oof.
Just a quick little thing.
Oof. It is. I think what it is we are in a weird environment where a lot of businesses that are frankly not profitable have gotten away with being unprofitable for a very long time.
He took my thing.